I was one of those guys just afraid of the doctor. So I wasn't going for a regular checkup. But I had a high blood pressure condition that I wasn't aware of. Just blindsided me. I go to work in the evening. So prior to work, I usually go about an hour at the gym before I go to work. Went in a little bit earlier, did cardio, worked out, and then at the end of my workout, went to play some basketball. And all of a sudden, I just felt dizzy. And I started holding on to the wall, holding on to my friends. He said, lift your left hands, and I barely could move my left hands. So he said, immediately call 911, his guy having a stroke. And I remember the paramedics coming by and they said, they ain't able to save this guy, we have to airlift him immediately to Grady Hospital. I mean, it was a blood clot to the brain. It was a major, major stroke. So they had to go through my body, up in my brain, and take out the blood clot.
The most common type of stroke is when an artery is blocked. When that artery is blocked, then blood flow can't get to the brain, and that part of the brain stops working. If that part of the brain stops working, then you have symptoms like weakness on one side of the body or difficulty speaking.
Stroke is the 5th leading cause of death for all Americans, including African Americans, but African Americans are twice as likely to have a stroke compared to whites.
Grady was really good to take good care of me. Even today, they still do. They follow up with me after the hospital and make sure everything was okay. Hardest time I had, changing my diet. I think it was the hardest time. I mean, like I said, after 40 years of eating a certain way, all of a sudden to change that. But I think it's a change for life. Prior to my stroke, I didn't eat a lot of fruits and vegetables at all. Today, 2 to 4 pieces of fruits a day and vegetables 2 to 3 times a day. My kids, they were happy when I came home, and when they see me exercising and trying to eat right, you know, they encouraged me, and I try to get them encouraged also so we can do this together.
We want people to know that stroke is preventable and treatable, and there is hope. There are things you can do. You can work with your doctor to reduce your risk, and regularly checking your blood pressure is important.
I keep a log of my blood pressure, and it's been controlled. This whole year it hasn't gone over 120. I want to be a spokesperson for this, to be honest with you. Well, I want to say, first thing is, please, please, please go to the doctor. Get yourself checked first. It's very important. Get yourself checked, see where you are. And if you have to go on medication, do it. All my friends, I mean, I tell them every single day, listen, man, you got to change your diet 100%. Start with your diet first, and then just gradually start walking, start getting this exercise. So all my friends, you know, I'm an advocate of being healthy and eating right now. And I think what motivates me the most is my 4 kids. I want to be able to see them grow up, go to college, you know, have their own family. And me passing down this eating right and healthy lifestyle, and they're passing that on to their kids. So I think that's my biggest motivation, just watching my kids grow up and showing a good example.
Most people know what to do in the case of a medical emergency.
Call 911. Call 911.
But don't know that stroke is a medical emergency.
Stroke? I don't know.
Well, you think...
What you need to do is get to a hospital as quickly as possible. Every minute counts. When her husband Robert had a stroke, Alma Shanley knew just what to do.
And he sat down in the chair and he kept staring at me, and I thought he was fooling around with me at first. And I said to him, "This is not funny, Robert."
I could not speak. All I knew, she was my wife, and I reached over and took her hand, and I couldn't remember the names of my grandchildren or my daughters. It was a complete blank.
And I said to him, "You're having a stroke. Stay here. I'm calling the ambulance."
A stroke, sometimes called a brain attack, occurs when blood flow to the brain is interrupted. That can happen if a blood vessel breaks or gets blocked by a clot. When someone has a stroke, brain cells in the immediate area begin to die because they stop getting the oxygen and nutrients they need.
Somehow we have to get the hopeful message out that there is something you can do. It's not hopeless. And I think 4 or 5 years ago that was pretty much true. But now it's changed vastly. And the change is that now you can do something.
In the past, people often struggle to live with serious disabilities after a stroke, but they don't have to accept those limitations now. Today, people have a much better chance for a complete recovery. Effective treatment is available for strokes caused by a blood clot, and that's about 80% of all strokes.
He made it to the hospital, I would say, in probably 25 minutes from when he left here, and 6 days later he walked out of the hospital. And I think that's a miracle. I really do.
We've been able to develop a drug, TPA, which you can inject in a vein, goes through the body, but it knows where the clot is. It goes and locks onto that clot and dissolves it, and the blood starts flowing again.
New treatments can limit the disability caused by a stroke, but you need to know the signs and act in time. Here are the signs to look for in yourself or those around you. Sudden numbness or weakness in the face, arm, or leg, especially on one side of the body. Sudden confusion or trouble speaking or understanding. Sudden trouble seeing in one or both eyes. Sudden trouble walking, dizziness, loss of balance or coordination. Sudden severe headache with no known cause. If you experience any of these symptoms, you need to get to a hospital right away. Even if they go away quickly, it may still be a stroke.
Stroke is really a block or a break in a blood vessel in the brain. If it is on a specific side of the brain, usually that's the left side of the brain, then people will have a great deal of trouble either saying things or understanding things, and sometimes both.
When someone has a sudden loss of function, they should, without delay, call 911 and get to the hospital. It's that type of a medical emergency where you don't have time to call your doctor's office, you don't have time to discuss it with a friend. The patient, or more properly, the person with the patient, call 911, get to the hospital.
Because stroke injures the brain, the person having one might not realize it. In this demonstration, other people recognize the signs of a stroke and call 911.
Mom! What happened? Mom can't hear. I don't know. She just suddenly stopped.
An alert family member or bystander can be a real hero.
Mama?
Can't talk. I think she's having a stroke.
It's really worth the effort it takes to dial 911. It's hard to decide to do that. You're not always sure exactly what's going on, but it is really worth it. It's going to pay back in terms of going home and living your life.
They have to get there early to get the best treatment. They need to be examined by doctors.
Close your eyes.
They need brain scans, like CAT scans, to know what the best therapy is.
The big pictures turned out, shows all the details of your brain and makes it very obvious whether there's bleeding or not in your brain.
It also helps to know if you, or those you care about, are at risk for stroke. Take Sylvia Saxton, for example. Despite high blood pressure, diabetes, and a family history, her stroke came as a surprise.
When my foot went to sleep, I hadn't thought it could be a stroke. I thought it was just when you're sitting down or laying down like you do and your foot go to sleep. I did not really connect it to the signs of a stroke.
If you have high blood pressure, you're 4 to 6 times more likely to have a stroke. Heart disease and a heart condition known as atrial fibrillation can double your risk of stroke. Your risk also increases if you smoke, have diabetes, sickle cell disease, high cholesterol, or a family history of stroke.
Strokes are preventable. They can be prevented. They can also be treated. Years ago, we couldn't do that. Now we can. We want people to be aware of their body, know those numbers, their blood pressure, their glucose, their cholesterol. All of that's important.
It's so important to just watch my health in every way. Try to watch my weight, try to keep the pressure down. It's just so important to try to stay healthy so you won't have another stroke.
Stroke touches so many American families. It's the third leading cause of death and a leading cause of serious long-term disability. But today, there is effective treatment that can prevent or reduce those disabilities. The key is know the signs, act in time. If you think someone is having a stroke, if they suddenly lose the ability to speak or the ability to move their arm or leg on one side, or if they have weakness on one side, don't wait. Call 911 immediately. You can have your life back after a stroke if you know the signs and act in time.
We can go on with our life, we can enjoy our life, we can enjoy our children, our grandchildren.
It means that Grandpapa is going to be around, that Mom's going to be there to enjoy Christmas with you. All of those things that make life worthwhile, simply because we all understood and acted on the signs of a stroke.
Look at me,